Aliyah is the immigration of Jews from the diaspora to the land of Israel, Eretz Israel in Hebrew. Also defined as the act of going up, or as in progressing towards Jerusalem. Aliyah is one of the most basic tenets of Zionism. The opposite action, emigration from Israel, is referred to as Yerida. The concept of Aliyah to the Holy Land was first developed in Jewish history during the Babylonian exile. During the Jewish diaspora, Aliyah was developed as a national aspiration for the Jewish people, although it was not usually fulfilled until the development of the Zionist movement in the late 19th century. Large-scale immigration to Palestine began in 1882. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, more than 3 million Jews from over 90 countries have made Aliyah and arrived in Israel. Throughout much of Jewish history, most Jews have lived in the diaspora. Today, the world's Jewish population is mostly concentrated in two countries: the United States and Israel. Historical overview. Successive waves of Jewish settlement were an important aspect of the history of Jewish life in Israel. Eretz Yisrael is the Hebrew name for the region known in English as Israel. This traditional Hebrew toponym, in turn, has lent its name to the modern state of Israel. Pre-Zionist Aliyah refers to small-scale return migration of diaspora Jews to the region of Palestine. Since the birth of Zionism, its advocates have striven to facilitate the settlement of Jewish refugees in Ottoman Palestine, Mandatory Palestine, and the sovereign state of Israel. The following waves have been identified. Aliyah to Ottoman Palestine. First Aliyah, second Aliyah. Aliyah to Mandatory Palestine. Third Aliyah, fourth Aliyah, fifth Aliyah, Aliyah Bet. Aliyah to the State of Israel. Aliyah from elsewhere in the Middle East and North Africa. Aliyah from Western and communist countries following the Six-Day War. Aliyah from post-Soviet states. Today, most Aliyah consists of voluntary migration for ideological, economic, or family reunification purposes. Etymology. Aliyah in Hebrew means ascent or going up. Jewish tradition views traveling to the land of Israel as an ascent, both geographically and metaphysically. Anyone traveling to Eretz Israel from Egypt, Babylonia or the Mediterranean basin, where many Jews lived in early rabbinic times, climbed to a higher altitude. Visiting Jerusalem, situated 2,700 feet above sea level, also involved an ascent. Religious, ideological and cultural concept. Aliyah is an important Jewish cultural concept and a fundamental component of Zionism. It is enshrined in Israel's law of return, which accords any Jew and eligible non-Jews the legal right to assisted immigration and settlement in Israel, as well as Israeli citizenship. Someone who makes Aliyah is called an Ole or Ola. The plural for both is Olim. Many religious Jews espouse Aliyah as a return to the Promised Land, and regard it as the fulfillment of God's biblical promise to the descendants of the Hebrew patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Nachmanides includes making Aliyah in his enumeration of the 613 commandments. In the Talmud, at the end of Tractate Ketubot, the Mishnah says, "A man may compel his entire household to go up with him to the land of Israel, but may not compel one to leave." The discussion on this passage in the Mishnah emphasizes the importance of living in Israel. One should always live in the land of Israel, even in a town most of whose inhabitants are idolaters, but let no one live outside the land, even in a town most of whose inhabitants are Israelites, for whoever lives in the land of Israel may be considered to have a God, but whoever lives outside the land may be regarded as one who has no God. Sifra says that the mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael is as important as all the other mitzvot put together. There are many mitzvot such as Shemitah, the sabbatical year for farming, which can only be performed in Israel. In Zionist discourse, the term Aliyah includes both voluntary immigration for ideological, emotional, or practical reasons and, on the other hand, mass flight of persecuted populations of Jews. The vast majority of Israeli Jews today trace their families' recent roots to outside the country, while many have actively chosen to settle in Israel rather than some other country. Many had little or no choice about leaving their previous home countries. While Israel is commonly recognized as a country of immigrants, it is also, in large measure, a country of refugees. According to the traditional Jewish ordering of books of the Tanakh, the very last word of the last book in the original Hebrew is v'yiral, adjective verb form derived from the same root as Aliyah, meaning, and let him go up. 2 Chronicles chapter 36 verse 23. Thus saith Cyrus king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth hath the Lord God of heaven given me, and he hath charged me to build him an house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? The Lord his God be with him, and let him go up. Historical background. Return to the land of Israel is a recurring theme in Jewish prayers recited every day, 3 times a day, and holiday services on Passover and Yom Kippur traditionally conclude with the words, next year in Jerusalem. Because Jewish lineage can provide a right to Israeli citizenship, Aliyah has both a secular and a religious significance. For generations of religious Jews, Aliyah was associated with the coming of the Jewish Messiah. Jews prayed for their Messiah to come, who was to redeem the land of Israel from Gentile rule and return world Jewry to the land under a halachic theocracy. Pre-Zionist Aliyah. Biblical. The Hebrew Bible relates that the patriarch Abraham came to the land of Canaan with his family and followers in approximately 1800 BC. His grandson Jacob went down to Egypt with his family, and after several centuries there, the Israelites went back to Canaan under Moses and Joshua, entering it in about 1300 BC, a few decades after the fall of the Kingdom of Judah and the Babylonian exile of the Jewish people. Approximately 50,000 Jews returned to Zion following the Cyrus Declaration from 538 BC. The Jewish priestly scribe Ezra led the Jewish exiles living in Babylon to their home city of Jerusalem in 459 BC. Second Temple period. Jews returned to the land of Israel throughout the era of the Second Temple. Herod the Great also encouraged Aliyah and often gave key posts, such as the position of high priest returnees. 200–500 AD. In late antiquity, the two hubs of rabbinic learning were Babylonia and the land of Israel. Throughout the Amoraic period, many Babylonian Jews immigrated to the land of Israel and left their mark on life there, as rabbis and leaders. 10th–11th century. In the 10th century, leaders of the Karaite Jewish community, mostly living under Persian rule, urged their followers to settle in Eretz Yisrael. The Karaites established their own quarter in Jerusalem, on the western slope of the Kidron Valley. During this period, there is abundant evidence of pilgrimages to Jerusalem by Jews from various countries, mainly in the month of Tishri. Around the time of the Sukkot holiday, 1200 to 1882, the number of Jews migrating to the land of Israel rose significantly between the 13th and 19th centuries, mainly due to a general decline in the status of Jews across Europe and an increase in religious persecution. The expulsion of Jews from England, France, Austria, and Spain were seen by many as a sign of approaching redemption and contributed greatly to the messianic spirit of the time. Aliyah was also spurred during this period by the resurgence of messianic fervor among the Jews of France, Italy, the Germanic states, Poland, Russia, and North Africa. The belief in the imminent coming of the Jewish Messiah, the ingathering of the exiles and the re-establishment of the Kingdom of Israel encouraged many who had few other options to make the perilous journey to the land of Israel. Pre-Zionist resettlement in Palestine met with various degrees of success. For example, little is known of the fate of the 1210 Aliyah of the 300 rabbis and their descendants. It is thought that few survived the bloody upheavals caused by the Crusader invasion in 1229 and their subsequent expulsion by the Muslims in 1291. After the fall of the Byzantine Empire in 1453 and the expulsion of Jews from Spain and Portugal, many Jews made their way to the Holy Land. Then the immigration in the 18th and early 19th centuries of thousands of followers of various Kabbalist and Hasidic rabbis, as well as the disciples of the Vilna Gaon and the disciples of the Chatham Sofer, added considerably to the Jewish populations in Jerusalem, Tiberias, Hebron, and Safed. The messianic dreams of the Gaon of Vilna inspired one of the largest pre-Zionist waves of immigration to Eretz Yisrael. This was a part of a larger movement of thousands of Jews from countries as widely spaced as Persia and Morocco, Yemen and Russia, who moved to Israel beginning in the first decade of the 19th century, and in even larger numbers after the conquest of the region by Muhammad Ali of Egypt in 1832, all drawn by the expectation of the arrival of the Messiah in the Jewish year 5600. Christian year 1840, a movement documented in Ari Morgenstern's Hastening Redemption. There were also those who, like the British mystic Lawrence Oliphant, tried to lease northern Palestine to settle the Jews there.